Good morning. I'm going to do our presentation on the accidental birder in Kenya. This is a program we did on the 13th of October, and I'd like to share it with all the Ogeechee Audubon members, since a lot of people were not able to attend in person when we did it in September, nor were some folks able to do the Zoom call. So I'm going to go through the presentation, and I hope you enjoy the pictures and the presentation. So I was in Kenya for 6 weeks this past, wow, it's been a while, this past February to March. And also last year I was in Kenya for 2 months. And I'm going to share the pictures of the birds that I saw. I saw most all of them south of the equator in Thigio, Masai Mara, Lake Nakuru, Lake Navisha, and Amboseli. And as you can see here, I was with my husband for the safari, but we traveled to Thigio. That's where I stayed for the mission. And we went from Thigio to Masai Mara, which we stayed for several days, then traveled up to Lake Nakuru, down to Lake Navisha, and from Lake Navisha to Amboseli. The program is going to be organized, the taxonomy and the names, around the book, Birds of East Africa. This presentation will mirror the categories that they have and the order as outlined in the book. So as a way to give the presentation some structure. The first birds, of course, I saw were the ostrich. They're so incredible to see them just strutting around in Masai Mara. Enjoyed seeing them, the male and the females. Pelicans, I saw the great white pelican that's larger than the American white pelican, and the pink-backed pelicans. And this was in Lake Navisha. I grew not to like the pink-backed pelicans, and I'll tell you why. This is a little story. Not a happy story, but a story of nature. Here you see the great white pelican next to the pinkback. And here you see daddy Egyptian goose kind of yelling at the pinkback pelican. And the reason is he's got a little brood with his wife there that they're trying to protect their little goslings. And you see several pinkback pelicans are coming over, and they're really coming over to hunt them, to eat them. And this little guy's looking right at me saying, "Save me." And unfortunately, what happens is this little guy, same little guy, gets separated from the group. Mom and dad are trying to defend their brood, but unsuccessfully, in the sense this little fella, he's kind of diving for his life or her life. Successfully gets away and swims off. However, mom and dad and the other goslings have gone away. I did want to go pick up this little fella and take it over, but our guide said no. This is a lake too. This lake Navisha is because it has a lot of hippopotamuses in it. So of course we had to keep looking out because we're in a little type of rowboat, little motorboat, and of course it's a little bit dangerous. Also on the lake Navisha, there were the great cormorant and the long-tailed cormorant, or also known as the reed cormorant. There was a rookery with the great cormorants, and you can see how they have all their nests up in the rookery. Next category is the small herons, and of course you can see this. These are all little cattle egret, really, with the water buffalo there, and Mount Kilimanjaro in the background. And then the common squacco heron, I never quite get a good picture of them. This was at Lake Navisha. Large herons, see the black-headed heron in Amboseli. Nice looking heron, a little bit like our little blues, not a little bigger than the little blues though. And then the gray heron, very, very similar to the great blue herons. And the gray heron I got at Lake Navisha. I had seen them in other places as well as Nairobi and Bigio where I was staying. And then the black-headed I saw in Amboseli. Hammerkop, they get their name, of course, because their head looks like a hammerhead, German for hammerhead. And I saw them at Lake Navisha, and they're a brown color. They're kind of an interesting looking bird. Their next category is large, mainly white storks. So this is the yellow-billed stork and Amboseli. And I kind of like these. I like how their little eyeball sticks out from that orange. An interesting little bird. And I love the way, of course, their legs work kind of backwards to ours. Giant storks, the saddle-billed stork, very tall, probably about 5 feet, 6 feet tall. This little yellow is why they call it the saddle-billed stork. And then the Mabaroo stork. These are very similar to Jabiru storks that are found in Central and South America. The Mabaroo stork could stand about 6 feet high. And I did see some of them in Nairobi, interesting enough, on top of a building. So they were it's kind of interesting to see that. So ibises, the Adada ibis and Thigio. These were right where I stayed on the mission. They would come, especially in the evening, to where the cows were and kind of pick through the manure and get the bugs out. And then the sacred ibis, which are black and white. I saw this one in Amboseli. Spoonbills, similar to our roseate spoonbill, except not pink. White, the African spoonbill, and it's just kind of fun to see. I love their shape of their bills. This was in Amboseli. Flamingos. So I had such a good time watching the flamingos. The greater flamingo, as you see here, they have the pinkish bill with a little black at the end of it. They're a little lighter colored. And then the lesser flamingo, you can see their red eye standing out against the dark pink bill, and they're like a darker pinkish color. I like the lesser flamingos very much. Both of these I took at Amboseli, these pictures. This was at Lake Nakuru. There are many, many flamingos there. And of course, they're all flying across. And this little guy, the water buffalo, sitting there. When I was at Lake Nakuru, could go up to the lake to take some of the pictures. However, I had to be accompanied by a gentleman with a gun so that if there was any issues with lions or there were actually rhinoceros right around where we were, actually not very far. And of course, as you see, the water buffalo, and they can be quite dangerous. This is a picture of an immature greater flamingo, kind of a pretty color. And of course, it has the bluish type of bill with a little black tip. So it's the greater flamingo. The immature lesser flamingo at Lake Nakuru, that was sorry. I have a little technical problem, excuse me. Immature lesser flamingo, they're not quite as pretty, but I think they turn out, which I like better as they mature with their dark pink colors and their dark bills. This was at Kilimanjaro, right near Lake Kilimanjaro, and I just loved, this is at Amboseli, all the lineup of all the flamingos. They're all kind of facing the same way. And you see another picture, and you see Kilimanjaro in the background and all the flamingos out on the lake. You can see that the lake is not very deep at all. We were just driving the safari vehicle on a causeway, and at times we were just driving kind of across the water like this. Large resident waterfowl. This is the Egyptian goose, as you saw, and of course, I took this picture, they were -1 because of those lovely pink-backed pelicans, and that was at the Lake Navisha. Whistling ducks, very much like our black-bellied whistling duck, the white-faced whistling duck, kind of an interesting, pretty bird. Saw a few of those at Amboseli. Resident ducks, these were the Cape teal in Amboseli, and mom and dad, of course, with their little goslings. The secretary bird, this is a category of its own in the book. And I really enjoyed seeing the secretary bird. They are very interesting to watch. They catch their prey by, as you see, putting up their wings, scaring them up, so lizards, snakes, things like that, and then they stamp them to death. And this was in Masamara. Fish-eating raptors, this was at Lake Navisha, and this is the African fish eagle. Kind of interesting to watch them. I did watch them go across the lake and pick out some fish right out of the water. And they were, remember when before when I showed you where the rookery was for the cormorants, they were right near that rookery on that dead tree. Next category is the chanting goshawk. This is a dark chanting goshawk, and this is the immature chanting goshawk. Little bit difference in coloring, and this goshawk, you can see the little tail. It's got a little lizard that he's eating. They are snake eaters, and they like to catch snakes and lizards and things like that. This was at Masamara. It's kind of fun seeing this, the long-crested eagle. We were leaving that day in the morning. We were leaving Lake Nakuru, and I kind of looked up and saw them. So I quickly, said, stop the vehicle, And then I got out. Well, you can't get out of the vehicle because of all the animals around and the possible danger, but I did get a fairly decent picture. Guinea fowls, this is the helmeted guinea fowl in Masamara. It kind of all around. I didn't get a good picture, but there were babies here with this little group of guinea fowl. The francolins, this is a crested francolin in Masamara. Spur fowls, interesting, this is the red-necked spur fowl. You can't see the red too well on that. And then the yellow-necked spur fowl in Amboseli. Here you see a little bit, it looks like a little trash. It is. In Amboseli, there was a place where we could walk up and have lunch. Only place where we can get out of the car and have lunch, but it's like a little hill, actually. And you can look over and see all the elephants and all the animals up there, and it's beautiful. However, these where people put their garbage kind of attracted this fella, the little yellow-necked spur. Jacanas, this is the African jacana in Amboseli. Looks like the jacanas I've seen in Belize a little bit. Different coloring, pretty bluish on the little helmet there, and beak. Cranes, this is a very pretty little crane. Kind of looks like it's wearing a little bonnet. It's the gray crowned crane, and saw this in Masai Mara. I did see a lot of these around Nairobi, along the side of the road when you're driving into Nairobi. So I hope things are going well so far. The one cat that I wanted to see, large cat, was the cheetah, and I was able to see that. This guy was sitting with his brother. There were two of them sitting in the grass. It's the first night we got to Masai Mara. Large bustards. This is the Kori bustard. I saw it in Amboseli. They're kind of interesting. It's about 4 or 5 feet tall. They kind of strut around with their head up in the grasslands. They're the heaviest bird that can fly. It's about 25 pounds. So this is a large bustard. There are also small bustards. This one I found extremely cute. Kind of would like to take it home and have it around the house. It's kind of an adorable little bird. This is the white-bellied bustard. This bustard is about 18 inches. So quite a difference in size for the bustards. Large black and white shorebirds, of course, you see, very similar. This is the black winged stilt instead of the black neck stilt. And those were in Lake Navisha. And then the pied avocet in Amboseli. And you can't see too well because of all the grasses, but you do see how the beak curves upwards, very much like our avocets. Coursers, this is a two-banded courser in Amboseli. Kind of really blends in with the road there. This is the dirt road that they have. Plus, a lot of the area where we were here is dry grassland, so they just are camouflaged right into the environment. Wetland lapwings. This is kind of neat to see these, and I saw a number of them. The blacksmith lapwing at Lake Nakuru. So it's sitting on a little nest, and all it is a little depression in the dirt. Interesting enough, which you can't see, because I was interested in the birds, but I was also interested in the animals. So over here in the distance are a couple of rhinoceroses. So it's kind of cool to see that. And then the spurwing lapwing, this was at Lake Navisha. Nice bird, little red eye, pretty bird. The African wattled lapwing, you see little wattle. This was at Masai Mara, strutting around in the grasses. And then the dry country lapwings. This is the crowned lapwing that we saw in Amboseli. And you see why it's called the crowned lapwing. Again, they're very nice little birds to see. Sandpipers, I saw a marsh sandpiper at Amboseli. It's kind of a surprise. I just didn't expect to see what I typically think of birds along the oceans or the shoreline. Not at all. And of course, we all know that they not all live along the shoreline. And this was the marsh sandpiper. I did see a black-tailed godwit as well, and this was at Lake Navisha. That was kind of a treat. Sand grouse. When I was in Hawaii last year, I did see sand grouse. So this is kind of fun. You see the 4 males and 4 females walking together down the road in Amboseli. So the chestnut-bellied sand grouse. Large pigeons. Of course, it's great when you go to another country and see a pigeon and it becomes a life bird. This was at Thigio. This is really on the road in the compound where I stayed. Kind of bright red skin around the eye is what you see there. Also, this was also in the compound. Again, a red-eyed dove. So we saw this in Thigio. The go-away bird. This is the bare-faced go-away bird I saw in Masai Mara. And the guide that I was with says, you know, they're named go-away birds because you always see them flying away from you, so they're going away from you. However, I did see a go-away bird in South Africa a number of years ago, and the sound that it made sounded like go away, go away. So I guess a couple of reasons why it's called that. Mouse birds, this is a speckled mouse bird. Lots of mouse birds around where I stayed in Thigio. In fact, right outside the accommodation where I was one evening coming back, the whole tree in the front bush was just full of mouse birds kind of roasting there. Kingfishers, I saw several different types of kingfishers when I was there. The giant kingfisher and then the pied kingfisher. And both of these I saw at Lake Navasha. All right. This is a cute little kingfisher, gray-headed kingfisher, and saw this in Amboseli. I like the coloring of this kingfisher. Bee eaters, saw a number of bee eaters, couldn't get some good pictures, but I did get a couple decent pictures of these little bee eaters in Amboseli. And I like their coloring so much, kind of an oranges with the blue, black, and yellow, little red eye. These are rollers, the blue and chestnut rollers. This is the lilac-breasted roller. They're very pretty birds, very colorful. Reminds me a lot of our painted buntings. Saw this in Amboseli. This is a fawn-colored lark. It's kind of tough to see, kind of blends right in with the sandy, gravelly type of soil in Masamara. Swallows, the lesser striped swallow and Masamara, kind of a pretty swallow. Like, of course, stripes, but the coloring, iridescence there. We saw these the night we saw the cheetah, so it's kind of cool. Pangani, longclaw in Masamara. And unfortunately, I couldn't get a picture of the claws, but they are very long, nice little yellowish under his chin. Pretty, pretty bird. Common bulbuls, we had lots of these all through the country. This is in Thigio. They would wake me up every morning. They'd sing very pretty songs they'd sing in the mornings. This little fellow is eating some berries you find on this little tree here. Robin chats, again, they're all over. This is the Cape Robin chat. This was in Thigio, right outside my accommodation, just on the fencing. Everywhere there's little gardens or little farms called shambas, and this is the fencing around the shamba. The Abyssinian thrush, again, you saw a lot of these in Thigio. It's kind of right outside my accommodation. I took that picture. Rock thrushes, this is a cute bird. Kind of remind me a little of a robin. Of course, a robin's a thrush. Rufous-tailed rock thrush. When he turns around, the front of him is like all rufous color, very much like the red-breasted robins, but like a grayish and then a brownish. So kind of not real bright colors, but kind of interesting pattern for this little bird. So the plain-backed cisticolas, these are singing cisticolas. These are kind of adorable. This was a woodpile at Thigio down by the farm where the cows and the other animals are, and they were all peeking out. I sent this picture to Vic Carpenter, kind of asking him. He spent time in Kenya, and I said, "What bird is this?" Because it's so adorable. So he helped me out with that identification. The white eyes. This is a yellow white eye, and you kind of see why they're called that. And they're This was in Thigio, again, really right outside the window where I stayed. And the sunbirds that I'm going to show you, and I'll show you different types of sunbirds. I took these pictures literally sitting underneath a bush outside, right where I stayed in Thigio on the mission. So the first are the long-tailed sunbirds, and this is the golden wing sunbird, as you see why. And then the bronze sunbird, they're very pretty in Thigio. The malachite sunbird, I did walk to see these, and I do not know the name of this plant, but these sunbirds love to come and feed at this area. And it's really a path that we would find to look over the valley next to Thigio. Scarlet-chested sunbird. And again, you can see why it's called that. Pretty bird. These are sunbirds with red breast bands and long tails. And of course, this is called the beautiful sunbird. And I thought it was beautiful. Nice, pretty, colorful sunbird. Variable sunbird, again, lots of colors. Thigio. You know, sunbirds remind me a little of hummingbirds. They don't hover like hummingbirds. They're not as small as most hummingbirds. And Africa doesn't have any hummingbirds. So these are kind of like the hummingbirds of Africa, but not quite. They do have the long beaks and they do sip out the nectar from the flowers. True shrikes, excuse me. This is a common, they call them fiscals. This is a common fiscal in Thigio. Again, walking along the road, I took walks on the weekends and I found that little common fiscal. This is a gray-backed fiscal. This was in Lake Nakuru. It's got a little bug in its mouth. Crows, this is a pied crow. I see these a lot around, and they're kind of pretty. One time I was sitting outside of the accommodation, and right in front of me lands a head of a chicken, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, what's that about?" Falling out of the sky, and of course they slaughter the chickens to eat and for dinner, and I imagined one of the pied crows picked it up and was eating it and dropped it in front of me. Oxpeckers. I was kind of glad to see both oxpeckers when I was there. The yellow-billed oxpecker kind of looks like his little lipstick at the end of his beak there. And then the red-billed oxpecker. This oxpecker comes with an ox. It's kind of sitting on the top. And I saw both of these in Masai Mara. Glossy blue starlings. This is the greater blue-eared starling, kind of pretty. And again, you know, this is in Thigio, and you see it, and it's a starling. It's a live bird. It's kind of pretty bird. These were the superb starling. This is a rufous-bellied starling in Masai Mara, and there are a lot of these in Masai Mara. Again, iridescent, feathers. Picking up the light that way, and it's kind of pretty bird. First starling. These were kind of odd. In Amboseli, I'd see a whole bush full, and we'd pass many bushfuls of these these wattled starlings, and they were kind of interesting. Try to put this picture in because you get a good picture of the wattle. And of course, they'd go and feed along the little culverts with some water in it, but interesting starling. Sparrow weavers. These fellas are the white-browed sparrow weaver, not a true weaver. Lots of these in Thigio, and they make a racket. They don't sing, they just squawk and scream. This is a little fledge that had fallen out of, that had dropped out of the tree. And I kind of took his picture and then kind of left him alone. I think he did fine. This is part of a nest that they weave. You can see here, these are the nests that they weave. And right outside the hospice where I was volunteering was a tree full of these nests. And of course, they were quite loud, screaming, especially in the mornings. Social weavers. This is a gray-capped social weaver. I did get this picture and I did put it in eBird that I had seen one in Thigio. And of course, I got a notice saying you shouldn't see them there. So I sent him my picture, and of course, he said, "Huh, how about that?" So I was glad I got a picture of the social weaver, the gray-capped social weaver. True weavers, vitiline mask weaver, kind of pretty little bird. The Baglafect weaver from Lake Nakuru. This was in Thigio. These were around just about everywhere I went. Pretty true weavers. It's the golden weaver, the golden palm weaver. I saw this in Amboseli. I kind of like these birds. The first time I saw them, I was so tickled to see that color, that beautiful blue color and the little red cheek. Never was able to get a decent picture. As you can see, this is not a really decent picture. This is from Masamara, but I did see them also in Thigio. Just pretty, pretty birds. This is the purple grenadier. They're so cute. You kind of snuggle up together. And again, this was on the tree right outside my window. They would come and roost there in the evenings and kind of, snuggle together. It's another picture of the male purple grenadier. And again, this is the tree outside my window. These are all little fire finches, as you can see, kind of roosting early evening. And the African firefinch, this is Daddy. This is a clothesline pole, and they had all the little fledges lining up, and Dad's coming to feed them. And in Thigio. And these are the Waidas. This is a pin-tailed Waida, and we were leaving Amboseli, and I noticed in the distance we had just left the park, and I thought it was a ribbon tied to the top of the tree. And of course, I'm like, stop, stop, stop. So we go back, and lo and behold, it was the pin-tailed Waida, and it was sweet to see that. Seed eaters, these were all around Thigio, most places I went. This is the streaky seed eater, and you can see why it's called that. So this is the end. You can get up and take a stretch. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it's just a little respite, to kind of see some different birds, especially during this pandemic. And all these photos were taken by me. And I just, we're all trying to get through the pandemic in the best way that we can. We will bird together again. We can bird right outside our own windows or take a short walk. And Ogeechee Audubon is starting to do some very socially distanced, limited numbers. We're limiting the numbers of people in order to get people out and start doing some birding. So I thank you very much for watching this program, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you.